Good evening, everyone. Wow, you can hear me. Hi, I'm Kim Nichols. I'm the Executive Director of ARF, and I want to thank you for being here this evening because it's nights like this that really make a difference for the bond between you and your dog. And I'm so appreciative to these four here who have ongoing training and have really brought ARF's reputation up thanks to their dedication and creativity. You're also going to meet a few ARF dogs tonight, which are some of our recent rescues. The star of the show, who we worked with extensively that we were going to show off tonight, actually went home yesterday. So, yeah. But there's even more to this. The time that we spent with her, she is now going home. She's going to be an emotional support animal for a young boy who is hyperactive. And his OT came in and met the dog. The parents met the dog. And this is a puppy who also has a high level of energy, who sat down immediately and was so peaceful with this child. It was beautiful to watch this. And this is training. This is finding the thing that your dog loves and matching those people. That's what makes ARF special. That's what makes our jobs the best jobs in the entire world. So thank you for joining us tonight, and enjoy the panel.
I want to just welcome you to the training center. My name's Caryl. I'm the Director of Training Programs, and I want to introduce our panel. All of our panelists do training classes here, are all certified professional dog trainers. Gail Murphy, Amy Kurtz, and Veronica Grzybowska. I'm going to bring in our demonstration dogs. Come on in. So joining us tonight, we have Moose and Biscuit. And what we are going to do is give them some enrichment, right? So that is one of the main topics of our conversation tonight, is in the off season doing enrichment activities with your dog. Does everybody know what the term enrichment is referring to? So enrichment is referring to giving the dogs or any animal an activity that utilizes their natural instincts. So sniffing, eating, scrounging, all of that is enhancing their activity as opposed to living in an environment where they cannot exercise their natural instincts. And I do need my notes. So the history of this, just briefly, started with in zoos and lab animals, where, if you remember way back, zoos were basically just some concrete rooms with bars and no windows. What it's evolved in today from the science behind the enrichment is natural environments where the animals are allowed to act out on their own natural instincts. So at ARF, these are all examples of enrichment that we do for all the dogs in the shelters. Everything from food-based enrichment like you're seeing here to scavenging walks through the trails where they have to actually sniff and find food. Certain propellants are put into the kennels for them to have an oral olfactory stimulation, social interaction with people and other dogs, play groups, side-by-side walks, and obviously the food ones. The last thing that the dogs get in the evening in the kennels is a frozen cup of bone broth, which the licking process settles them all down, so the whole kennel gets settled, and then they're good for the rest of the evening.
Just on to my right here, you'll see that dog with the large red It's a Kong wobbler. You would be filling that with treats or with kibble, and if you can see that there's a hole on the side of it, it's bottom weighted. So it's actually like a weeble. So the dog just knocks it over, and hopefully the kibble will start intermittently dispersing to keep the dog knocking it over, and little by little get reinforced for working with that and having a slow way to feed. Also, there's a small red rubber Kong there that's stuffed with frozen dog food. Initially, when you're using a Kong, you want to make it a lot easier for the dog. You don't want to have it frozen. You want to have, let's say, cream cheese or peanut butter or wet dog food, especially at the top, to get the dog just interested in licking it. Little by little, you can make it more difficult. And then also I put down a slow bowl, which is a maize feeding bowl, which slows the dogs down while it's eating kibble. You can also put liquid in there. You can also put peanut butter or cream cheese and have the dog lick it out of that maize thing. So the idea is just feeding, especially something like kibble, out of a bowl. The dog can inhale it very quickly. They can also gulp a lot of air, which is a threat for bloat. So you really want to slow down their dinner. It's one of the highlights of their day, so you really want it to make it last for a long time, so they feel satisfied as well. And then just on my right, what this dog has is a snuffle mat, and it's filled with kibble. What I loved seeing was that as soon as the dog saw it, she picked it up actually by the hairy part of it and shook it. And so she is super smart. She's not really using it the way that it should be. It should be turned over with the black part at the bottom. But she's just picking it up, shaking it, and she's getting all her food out of it. So that's the smart dog to get it that way. And then she's having a little bit of a harder time with the Kong too because it's frozen. You really want to start off with a really easy way of them understanding how to use a Kong.
So,
And
yeah,
can I add something, Caryl, just
Yeah,
for a
please.
second? Because I had exactly the same observation. I just wanted to say that I don't think there's a should way of doing enrichment. I think, some dogs will do it. They will be very detail-oriented, and they will just find one kibble by one kibble by one kibble. And some of them, like Gail said, will just grab it and shake it. And there's no wrong way. Correct. And there's no, it's just what it is. And she's having fun, and she's finding that food, so that's great.
But that is the perfect example of utilizing their natural predatory instincts to satisfy them. I mean, if these animals were in the wild, nobody's going to hand them a bowl of food every day, right? So letting them continue to hone those skills is extremely, extremely satisfying for all animals. And the enrichment, like I was pointing out earlier, that we do at ARF is we do it for the dogs and the cats also within the shelter. There are 5 categories to different types of enrichment: nutritional, cognitive, sensory, social, and physical. So, Amy, Veronica, Gail, you want to talk a little, just briefly, about what those 5 different types of enrichments are?
I think that, to be honest, I have a very bad memory, and I can't remember the 5 words that you just said. So I see it all together.
That's fine. There's a huge
Right
crossover.
Now, right, there's a huge crossover right now, and this is Moose over here. What Moose is having is both social, because Moose and Chelsea are interacting, and sniffing. And so sniffing would be under which category?
Sensory.
Sensory. So and I'm sure there's probably more going on there that I'm not noticing.
Social, because
yes,
she's
social.
watching the other dog.
Yeah, she's watched. So, there's social, there's sensory, and what were the other ones?
Well, the cognitive, right?
Yeah, the
they need to
cognition,
learn how to
right,
do
there
it
we go.
first, and they're each time they're getting better and better at that. So my favorite ones are actually cognitive and sensory. So I always tell people, just take your dog, go and sit on a bench, and just watch the world go. Just watch, dogs passing by, cars passing by, people. Relax with your dog on a bench. That's an example of great enrichment. You know, you can go to different places, sit down with your dog, and that is an example of enrichment. Or you can come to classes at ARF and do a cognitive enrichment and just teach your dog new things. The more they learn, the smarter they get. That's kind of the whole point of the enrichment, right?
Enrichment is also a great form of distraction. So, for instance, every time these dogs start to get the idea that they want to stare at each other, their handlers kind of signal them back and like, oh, look, there's more fun stuff to do over here. You don't have to get into a staring match. You can just do your thing. So I guess I'm mixing up two concepts, but enrichment is a great way to engage your dog so that your dog doesn't engage in something you don't want your dog to engage in.
Absolutely. I mean, the enrichment, all types of enrichment will prevent boredom, relieve stress, and build confidence with the dogs. So all of it is designed to help them exist in our world and not adapt behaviors that we do not necessarily want.
I don't know if anybody's ever had their puppy or their dog, when you put food in the bowl, and if it's dry food, they'll pick up a piece and walk it over to like the mat and then eat it on the mat. And you're like, what's that all about? And then if you found out, like if you just took the kibble and sprinkled it on the floor or sprinkled it on the mat, then the dog would eat all the kibbles. But they technically, sometimes it could be that their dog tags are hitting the bowl and it's causing too much, scaring them. So you want to find another more natural way to feed them. You could take their dry food and throw it out in the yard, in the grass, and then they have to hunt and peck and try to find it that way. And we are going to go through games. You can play hide and go seek, and you can have feeding stations. You can actually do some obedience work, have them heel and have them sit, and then have them go and reward themselves with a little tiny bowl of food someplace else. The idea is keeping their mind occupied, physically, emotionally, mentally stimulated.
Absolutely. Barbara, did you have a question?
Then we're going to use a metal cookie sheet
We
or
use something
like
different.
that.
Substitute.
Absolutely. And I did want to encourage people, as we're talking, if you do have a question, then please raise your hand and we'll...
It depends on what you put in it, I would say. I mean, there's some dogs that I work with that their whole meals are only out of Kongs. So if they have 4 Kongs, they're going to fit the whole meal in 4, and that's how slow the dog goes. But putting peanut butter in one, that's kind of rich and a little fattening, so it is a definite treat. But you could give Kongs all day long. It could be their only source of how they get their meals, or you could make it a special treat, whichever you'd like. It depends on their dietary restrictions. I don't think a lot of peanut butter is good for a dog, so you may want to turn it into Greek yogurt or wet dog food, or just put part of their meal in there.
That wet thing is just to seal it. So you can put, a handful of kibble or just treats and just put a little spoon of peanut butter or a spoon of cream cheese or a spoon of Greek yogurt, like Gail said. So it's just so it's sealed and it doesn't come out so easily.
If you have juicers or blenders, you can also put carrots, sweet potatoes, mix up any kind of a vegetable. Some people use baby food. Gail mentioned earlier that you start easy. You always start easy with your dog. You make it easy for them to succeed. And so, but once they are succeeding, you can advance them to the frozen Kongs, and pro tip would be keep some frozen Kongs in your freezer.
Yeah,
have them at the ready.
When we look at the Kong, there's a tiny little hole at the back, and then there's the larger hole at the top. So the tiny little hole is the sniff hole, is what I call it. So when you're filling the Kong, you fill it with the wide top first. You put the stinkiest, most exclusive treat or whatever that could be, a piece of bologna at the bottom, and then you can put wet dog food or dry dog food, and then you're going to seal it off with something, again, that's really highly palatable. That would be cream cheese or Kong paste or something like that. But the sniff hole drives the dog from the top down to the very bottom.
And you can use the Kongs and any of these interactive devices whenever you feel like you need to use them. If your dog is having a little separation anxiety in their crate, these are great. You can also just, if you know that the dog needs a little bit more mental stimulation, a little bit more enrichment. I know plenty of people, including Cindy, who's the lead trainer here at ARF. I think she still uses a snuffle mat to half of her dog's daily meals come out of the snuffle mats. So you can use them all the time. They don't just have to be for special occasions. They can be a treat, but if you find that you need to give them a little bit more stimulation, they can certainly have that. I also forgot to mention at the beginning, Cindy was supposed to be here, but she is not feeling well, so she is not here this evening.
So, Gail, do you want to say what you just did, Gail, or can I just?
You go ahead.
I'll narrate. You do the visual. I'll do the. All right, I'll be the narrator. Gail just gave Moose a puzzle toy, and she had previously given names.
Biscuit.
Biscuit, Moose and Biscuit, food, yum. Previously given Biscuit a puzzle toy. Now she's filling this puzzle toy, and both of them are, you can see, this is cognitive. They have to figure out, what do I need to move around so I can get at that yum inside. So, they're really good at this.
Using their paws, using their nose, and then they make these puzzle toys with different levels of difficulty that you can make them easy in the beginning and gradually make them more difficult. But smart dogs get them done pretty quickly.
And also for instance, Barbara mentioned that some dogs will eat the mat. Some dogs will chew up
The puzzle toy.
A puzzle toy. But maybe you find one that is not as easy to chew.
Or you just pick it up when they're done.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, something like a Kong is great if you're going to leave the dog unattended, but the puzzle toys, other things, the snuffle mats, if they're going to rip them apart, then obviously you're not going to let them have them all the time.
We can also use something like an empty water bottle with just some kibble or some treats in there and let them kick it around and try to figure out how to get the treats out of the empty water bottle. Yes, Kim?
You need a lot of room. Space.
Most dogs should be fed always distant from each other, just so that they're not looking over their shoulders waiting for some guy to pounce on whatever you don't finish, or making you hurry up because somebody's waiting behind you. So if you're going to do enrichment, it would be better to separate them and have a place. Like, let's say an older dog is a slower eater than the other two, he should be behind a baby gate and let him have his time with his food. So enrichment can be inside of a crate, and it could be just a way to be in your studio apartment and have something to do. Have a little laundry room where someone can go and be enriched, but I think it might be a little, depending on the dogs, not be able to have anything too close, right, for resource guarding issues.
So all of this enrichment
There's
conversation.
one more question.
Oh,
There's one
I'm
more
sorry.
question.
Yeah.
So with dogs like that, when they're very, very smart, my first to go is clicker training. So any kind of tricks, when you teach them tricks, when you teach them, teaching tricks and clicker training or classical conditioning will be when you just do nothing and you just stand there and your dog is presenting you different things. We could go a little bit deeper into that, but it's basically when you teach them tricks, like weaving between your legs and things like that, that could be a solution, But also, Gail mentioned in the beginning, and that's my favorite to go to, in the summer when people have dogs that are constantly wanting to do something, going and play with me all the time, I just say, feed them like chickens. take all the kibble that you give for breakfast and just throw it in your backyard. And just feed them like chickens, right? Like, and just throw it. And then they will eat their breakfast for 25 minutes. And after that, and this is important because I think we haven't mentioned yet, why are we doing enrichment? Why we do that? Why we, show them all these games, puzzles, this and that. Yes, we want, every now and then we want a half an hour of quietness and be away from our dogs, right? But most importantly, that quiets them down, that your dogs will be satiated after that. They will be very fulfilled, but also smarter, a little bit more tired, right? So you have to, and each dog is different. So you have to find what makes your dog have fun.
Well, and we did, because we talked about a little bit about, training your dog, teaching your dog something new, puppies, adult dogs. All of that is a form of enrichment. All of that is actually just making your dog smarter. So everything from teaching them to sit, to down, all the basics. Once you're past that, one of the things I always talk to Gail about is, and she always says to me, is, have some fun with your dog. Teach your dog something new after they've learned all of those basic skills that you need. Have a fun interaction with your dog. Teach your dog to cross, like Veronica was saying, cross between your legs. Teach them to do a new trick. Teach them some kind of, just something that you can do to have a fun, interactive experience with your dog, as opposed to, once you have your basics, then you need to just find new things to start working with them on.
This gentleman in the front row had brought in a long line and wanted to know how to use it for his recall training or when he should be using it. I'm a huge advocate of a very long line if you're in a safe environment and you want to give the dogs opportunity to smell and to explore. Dogs, with the difference, we have about 6 million scent glands, and dogs have 300 million scent glands. So it's such a big enrichment for them to be sniffing. It's almost like going through the museum and looking at pictures and paintings all day long. At the end of the day, you're tired because we see the world through our eyes. They see the world through their nose. So taking in the full spectrum of every individual scent molecule will make them very exhausted. But even taking that long line, let's say, out to a field, and the dog has 15 to 20 feet or 30 feet of length to go sniff, and you were talking about doing recall training, you have a really nice high value, let's say, liver, freeze-dried liver in your pocket. So you'll just drop it down by your feet and call your dog and point to where you dropped that liver. So then the dog listens to the recall come, and then you just point, and then you're out there with your dog finding things. And so the dog's like, boy, I didn't find that liver treat. I'm gonna be listening to you the next time you call me because you seem to be finding really great things in the environment. So that is just a super fun way to teach recall training in an outdoor environment, and you can do the same thing in the house.
To add to what Gail's saying about the olfactory skills of a dog, taking them on a sniffy walk, which in the trade we call sniffaries, is you can take a dog for a 20-minute sniffari, and it's equal to at least an hour of just walking. It really tires them out. So what I often say is there are training walks. There are walks where you want your dog, like, I don't particularly use the word heel, but you want your dog at your side. There are walks where you want your dog right at your side. And then there are walks where you just let your dog explore. And, you decide before you go out, okay, what kind of walk is it going to be? What are we going to be doing today?
Or it could be combination.
Absolutely.
So that brings us actually kind of back to why we're talking about all of this, as far as, the title for the evening was enjoying the off-season with your dog. So why we're talking about all of these enrichment activities, sniffing walks, all of that, as we're about to spend more time indoors, as opposed to being outside 90% of the time through the warmer months, a lot of this will become more and more and more important for your dogs, because they are going to have, in a normal summer activity, everything smells differently, everything looks differently. They're outside a lot more, on leash, off leash. In the colder months, your walks are probably going to be shorter. They're going to need more things to do indoors. So one of the things that I wanted to ask the panel again is, we've talked a lot about feeding them like chickens, all these different things we can do outside. What are some of your favorite indoor enrichment activities, just like Veronica is demonstrating right now?
So Veronica is playing tug with a biscuit, and the idea is not so much tug of war, meaning there is a winner. Usually, if it's me, I'm always at the other end of that tug toy, and I'm the one that causes the resistance, which is part of why the dog is tugging on it. If I drop it and let the dog run off with it, it loses its value only because there is no resistance with it. So just playing tug is super exhausting for a dog. It does not cause aggression. It actually appeals to the basic needs of the dog to have tugging, and then also you can teach a solid out or drop, and then you can also add another cue in order for Veronica to present that toy again. So she would say, sit if you want me to play tug again with you, and she may sit on the rug as opposed to the slippery floor, and so she asks the dog to sit before she plays tug again. So I love tug. It's exhausting for the dog, but it also, yes, she works on dropping it out, and then again with playing, it's the anticipation of a reward is actually a higher value than getting the reward itself. You get a very high spike of dopamine when you are thinking about going on vacation and you're packing for vacation and you're thinking about how great it's going to be, and then sometimes when vacation comes, your dopamine drops. So just like the opportunity to tug is going to get the dog in a better state of mind than actually getting the tug. So anticipation of reward beats actually receiving that reward.
And that goes to the point of that there are different kinds of rewards. Finding the food is a reward. Getting to play is a reward. Getting to be with your person is a reward. There's lots of different rewards out there. It's not all about one thing.
I would like to add a little bit to tug of war, tug. When we talk about enrichment, lots of people think about just mental stimulation, just, finding that food in the snuffle mat, whereas tug is an active activity. It's a high energy, 5-10 minutes of tugging, playing with that rope, running, but it's also very mentally stimulating, especially when you play with your dog. I really always tell everyone who takes the classes here that you don't want just a dog to tug without thinking about it or just running after the rope. Make them sit, make them go down, make them think, make them do something in between, and then tag with them. And Caryl, if I could just talk a little bit about fetch versus tag.
Yes,
just
please.
For a second, okay?
Yes, please.
So, obviously, I'm not from around here. So when I came, I discovered Americans really like play fetch with their dogs. We don't do that much in Europe, but everyone plays fetch all the time, and I don't have anything against it. It's absolutely okay. I play fetch with my dog as well. But sometimes we can overdo some things. We can overdo it, and it's not too healthy for our dogs mentally. I've seen personally lots of dogs that are very ball obsessed. They just want you to throw that ball, and they just want to go, and they just want to chase it, grab it, bring it, chase it, grab it, bring it, chase it, grab it, bring it, all the time. The problem with that is every time they chase, the adrenaline levels and cortisol goes up. They grab that bunny, that ball is a bunny ultimately, right? They grab it, they bring it, there's no killing, there's no shredding, the predatory cycle that our dogs need to fulfill, right? So when we tug, and I like to advocate for a ball on a string, right? You can play fetch with that. You can throw it very far, far away. And imagine this is a bunny, right? Your dog sees the bunny. Maybe they have to sniff it out. Then they orient it. They see it. Then you throw it far, far away. They have to chase. When they chase, it's really stressful. It's like, will I get it? Will I not get it? Oh my goodness, I need that dopamine. I need that cortisol to go faster and grab it. And then they grab that and bring it to you. I encourage you, grab the end of the tag or the rope and tug with them. Kill that bunny together. Kill it. Because that, you're laughing, but that killing the bunny, it's actually lowering the levels of cortisol that dog just acquired by fetching, right? So you're tugging, tugging, tugging. You calm down, the dog calms down. Okay, ready? Let's do it one more time. And you probably will do it 5 times, no more, right? But at least your dog will be thinking. Your dogs will be using all the things that they're used to, right? The nose and the brain, and in the end, they're going to be very satiated. And when we chase the bunny and kill the bunny, what's the last thing? We need to eat the bunny, right? So when you finish the game of tag, throw a couple of treats on the ground. Just let them eat that bunny. Take the tag toy away. Close that circle, okay? Close that circle. Don't leave them hanging. I chased it 50 times and nothing happened. I didn't kill it. I didn't eat it, right? So, yeah.
I'm going to add an anecdote that doesn't have to do with a bunny. Sorry. It has to do with a Frisbee. And I was with a very high energy dog for quite a while. And the dog's people love to throw Frisbee and say, oh, the dog loves Frisbee. They have this huge backyard. The dog loves Frisbee. The dog loves Frisbee. I made like an executive decision. I'm going to throw that dog Frisbee 10 times. And then we go inside. And then maybe later in the day, I'll throw that dog Frisbee 10 times. That's enough. And when the dog brings Frisbee back to me, sit, drop, or drop, sit, drop, sit. Okay, I'll throw it again. Drop, sit. Okay, I'll throw it again. But not time after time after time after time, because as Veronica was saying, that just gets them so ramped up, and I don't want that. So physical exercise is necessary, that fun of chasing is necessary, but we're partners. We're partners with them. And we're not the boss. We're a partner. They don't get to run the show. We're running the show together. Okay? So there's some cooperation that needs to happen. It's not all about, I'm running, I'm getting it. Oh my God, oh, it's so great. That's not the deal.
Yeah, and I would say that it's always important to end the game when the dog still wants to play and not let the dog end the game. And it's important to control the resource, whatever that would be, the Frisbee or the ball, and that it gets put away. And it's only you or the one that's instrumental in bringing it out, because then that gives more value to you. If there's balls all over the house and the dog picks it up and comes over while you're sitting reading and starts pushing it into your lap, and then you throw it, the dog has just decided that he's the one that's calling the shots. So it's important to have a special toy. It could be a tug toy, it could be a flirt pole, or it could be a ball that only comes out with you, because then now you're more valuable. And always quit the game before the dog starts losing interest. It's just important to keep that newness and the drive there.
So interest is what, you just brought up that word. So, one of the things is, how do you start to figure out what is of interest to your dog? Like, how do you know what of these kinds of activities are going to be the right motivation, create the right enrichment for your particular
Anybody
dog?
want to offer what their dog likes to do the most? Yes?
My dog likes to go to the beach, run, but also smells and finds balls buried in the sand.
And then what does she do with the balls?
Then she won't move, she guards it.
Okay. We're not going to address, so your dog likes to run and sniff and seek and find. Okay, so that's kind of like we like to go to antique stores and try to seek and find. The seeking mechanism is really strong. Anybody else?
So you could use that, and you could hide things. And then your dog gets to seek and find. So we can observe what we like our dogs to do, and then we can replicate that for them. So it's not that your dog has to go to the beach and find that ball that just happens to be buried. Maybe you're the one who buries the ball, and then you train the dog to bring that ball back to you.
Well, that's one of the perfect examples. Like, get a bag of tennis balls, hide them in your house or in that pile of leaves before it gets too nasty out, and play the seek game with your dog, for sure. I mean, that observation of knowing what is motivating your dog is critical to making all of this kind of enrichment stuff that we're talking about work.
Well, if you're talking about a big ball of tennis balls, then you could work on scent work, which is getting like 10 tennis balls, and only one you're going to dab with a little vanilla extract on it. And you're going to let that dog smell that ball with the vanilla and give it some food, and make that sniffing that one particular ball mean that there's cookies that are involved. And then you put that ball in with the other 9 other tennis balls, and if she goes and she gets the one that smells like vanilla, then she can bring it to you and get a cookie. So that's just working on scent discrimination too.
So we have sniffing. What else? What other activities?
Anybody's dogs like?
Digging
Oh, so
holes?
digging.
That's good. That's good.
Digging would be getting an Amazon box and putting your treats or your kibble at the very bottom and filling it with, let's say, empty toilet paper rolls, paper towel rolls, tennis balls, their toys, and that the dog has to dig to the bottom of the box in order to get any of those cookies. So that helps with digging.
And then giving them a place to dig if it's
Oh, if you
right?
have to make like
outside, if you're
Designated
sandbox for the
digging.
dog.
yeah. Yeah.
Oh, and then she digs there, but as long as she's not doing it in your garden. Any other activities? Yes?
Just carries them in the mouth, or what does?
A puppy?
Okay, so how old is your puppy?
Oh, that's so natural.
So puppies,
Oh my
puppies
gosh.
and dogs in general, all dogs, they discover the world with their mouth. So it's absolutely impossible to ask a puppy that age not to put anything in their mouth, But you can give them some substitutes, a lot of chewing toys, a lot of nylon bones, anything that they can pick up and carry at home. But some breeds and some dogs like to carry things, just to carry things, So you can teach them to carry that dummy or that kind of toy, and when we go for a walk, your job will be to carry something. But when your puppy is 11 weeks old, just invest in a lot of chewy toys and little things that they can
teething.
pick up.
Your puppy needs to chew.
But you have to be careful about how you approach your puppy at this age if it has an acorn or a stick. So the dog's walking down the street and finds an acorn. It's like you finding a diamond ring, right? And if I'm walking with you and I see that you found that diamond ring and I go, dang it, that's mine, and I reach over and I rip it away from you, that you're not going to be too happy with me, and you're going to be very cautious about me being present when you're finding things on the ground. So it's important that you acknowledge that puppy found that acorn, which is his diamond ring, and you want to say, wow, I'll trade you, and you want to put that little very tasty morsel on his nose so he drops the acorn, takes the treat, and then move him on to another area. If you keep opening his mouth and pulling out the acorns, we don't want them ingesting a lot of acorns because they are high in acid. But if you keep being the thief, the dog will now take anything that it has and run very far away from you. So you have to be just working on that trade right now. Like,
So-
wow, that's a great stick. I'll trade you, you know.
Exactly. So if I know some of you are in my puppy class, if you ever are in basic obedience, you know I always emphasize the difference between leave it and drop it. Leave it is before it gets in their mouth. Drop it is when it's already in their mouth. And as Gail said, as I say too, you never take something out of your dog's mouth. You are not the thief. You are the person who offers them something better. Wow. You're like, you acknowledge what they found and you offer them something else. And it's an even trade. And sometimes, even when you're first teaching it, and if it's not an acorn, you might even give the original thing back to them, so that it's basically building trust. You are not the thief. You are not the bad person. You're the person that, like, oh, okay, I can open my jaw. Nothing horrible's going to happen. We like jaws opening to let go of things.
Barbara?
Well, I just think you need to find a lot of different things that you can do with your dog. Your puppies, yes, they like to run, chase, and do very high energy activities. But remember, your puppies will be senior dogs one day, or maybe they will break their leg, or maybe not. Let's hope they will not. But I'm just saying, just show them other activities that they could do if they could not run, or if the friend was not available, things that they can do instead.
So we're
right? So if
we can run across our yard, right?
You can play with a flirt pole, yes, absolutely.
Okay.
But I think that you can play fetch, you can do all the chasing games and things like that. But I think even more important is to find other activities that will substitute that, right? And will just teach your dog that there are many different ways of spending time, and there's many different ways of having fun, because maybe one day the friend will move away, or maybe one day your dog will be a little bit sick, or something, and you don't want them to be super sad. You want them to have some other things to do.
So without anthropomorphizing, although maybe I am, like we might have a friend who moves away. Or we might have some activity that we love that we can't do anymore. We find something different. And we find another way of fulfilling a need. And that's exactly what this whole panel is about, is finding other ways of fulfilling what our dogs need to do. They don't need to sit there and be bored all day. They need to do something. They need to be engaged, except when they're resting. Like I always say, you want to be the center of your dog's attention, except when you don't. You want your dog to be engaged, except when your dog is resting. So that's the whole purpose of this panel, is introducing all kinds of ways.
I mean, Barbara, I would play the Find It game too. I would do sit, stay, duration on a mat. You should be able to graduate to walk into another room, drop one good treat, walk back to the dog, release the dog with a Find It cue, and then he has to go find it somewhere in the house. And that builds good distance stay, and then impulse control on the mat. And I only do one treat when I hide one, because if you do multiple treats, the dog will probably stay out way too long. So if you just say, sit, stay, go hide the treat, come back, find it, he's gonna get that one treat and then put himself right back on the mat for you to do that again. And going out with other dogs, and it's wonderful, but in a real world that we're their pack too. So it's great to go out and have fun with your friends, but you always, come home with me. So we have to make ourselves very valuable as well.
Absolutely. Any other behaviors?
Never chase a dog.
don't you?
Well, in the dog's world, that's what they do with each other, is that they'll go and they'll pick up a ball and wag it in the other dog's face, and then get the dog wanting like, oh, I want that, and then they run away. And anytime that you chase them, game is on. So most of the time we have the dogs chase us, that we have a good toy, and then we run away, and then they chase us. So it's, and that happens with your acorn puppy thing. So if he has the acorn and he knows that you act like you want that acorn, he's going to run away, and then he's going to start that chase game. So you're going to have to just start going, wow, that's a really great acorn. I'll trade you. And then hopefully he'll just drop it and take what you have, and then you move on to something else. But
And to Barbara's point, to Barbara's question, and working with dogs has taught me to find patience that I never knew I had. And I bet most of you would agree with that. Sometimes we have to wait them out. So your dog's, this is the perfect thing. People who say, I can't put the leash on my dog. Oh, we want to go out. I can't get the leash on. I can't get the harness on. Don't chase your dog. Sit in one place and wait. Your dog will come to you. It'll take a lot less time than if you go running around the whole house chasing your dog.
because that's the game. Catch me if you can to put that harness on. This is the best game on the planet. So
You're going to have another cup of coffee. You bet she likes it. Do you like
Yeah.
it? She likes it. Do you like it? Oh, that's the other thing.
But
If,
then it's fine.
yeah, if you don't
But
mind.
then in an emergency situation, it's going to come back and bite you in the ass.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
If you get into the habit of and reaching that way towards her, and she's like, game on, and she's gone, it could be in a situation where you really do, in an emergency, have to reach for her, and she scuttles away. So, there's a bunch of other things
There's
that
a
you
game,
could work on.
there's a really simple exercise called collar grab, which you touch your dog's collar, you give him a treat. You touch your dog's collar, you give him a treat. So that it's like, does anybody want to add on to that?
Well, I mean, I think that to everybody's point with that example is take that energy, that chase game, the come and catch me game, and just turn it into a different game that doesn't involve the leash and the harness, right? Take that thing that she likes to do with you, but channel it into a different cue, a different set of circumstances, so it's not necessarily about getting her harness on. Yes? No? Okay, great.
You said it all, Carl. We'd have nothing to add.
Great.
So I was actually trying not to make a comment because I didn't want to confuse everyone. I would agree with the ladies that, if you have a young dog, if you have a puppy, if you have issues with a dog running away from you when you're holding a leash or collar, yes, maybe playing chase is not a good idea. But if you don't have these kind of issues, you can absolutely play chase with your dog. As Gail said, it's the best game on earth, so why not? It's just important to make it very clear for the dog when you mean game and when you don't. Okay, so I like to tell people, if you want to call your dog, say come, right? But if you want to chase your dog and you don't necessarily want them to come here, come here you. Come here, you. And then they run even faster, right? So just make it really clear to the dog when it's a game and when it's not. And only if you don't have issues like a dog running away when you're trying to put a collar on.
The other topic we did want to talk about a little bit was, now that we're going into the rest of the season, is that the holidays are coming. And it presents a certain level of can present challenges for your dog. So does anybody have any specific, we have things that we wanted to talk about that we know can be triggers and things for your dogs that are not great. Has anyone have any specific questions regarding people coming to your house, trick-or-treaters, like all of that kind of thing that can be problematic?
So, sorry, Veronica, sorry. This is where management comes in. And okay, we're all trainers, right? However, trainers also do a lot of management. And you guys need to do a lot of management as well. Management is all about prevention. You need to prevent the jumping. The more Sprout jumps, the more Sprout's gonna, this is why we do the thing about chase. The more you chase them, the more fun it is. The more they jump, the more fun it is. Make it not possible. Prevent it. Whether that means on a leash or behind a gate when they come in. And they don't get to engage or say hello until, people who know me, 4 on the floor. No engagement until 4 on the floor. That's it. Otherwise, it's just going to keep going. And those...
So I think,
that's
the best,
my other favorite topic.
the best way would be just, if you still have a crate in the house, it's really hard for dogs to meet people because it's all emotional, right? The door and the hallway is so emotionally charged that a dog is now anticipating someone's coming. There's a knock on the door, something's happening, I'm excited, I'm stressed, I'm anxious, whatever it is. There's different dogs, different responses, right? So now people come, most people are fun, they do squeaky voices and they go over the dog, right? And at this point, controlling the dog and asking him for obedience is, at many aspects, at many times, it's really difficult. So at this point, when you know your friends are coming, your family is coming, put your dog in the crate, put the dog behind the gate, put the dog in another room or somewhere where they can see people come in. Now you have time to invite people in the house, talk to them, say, listen, my dog is in training. He is now losing his head in the crate, barking, jumping, being obnoxious, very, very hyper. You're going to the kitchen. I'm going to make you some tea. Please sit down. Don't look at my dog. Probably the first time 20 minutes passes or maybe 15 minutes passes and everyone calms down. And only in that state of mind, when your dog is calm, you can open the crate and let him meet the people who are not only not by the door, they're already by the couch and they're sitting. They're not standing, they're not encouraging the dog to jump. So it's all about, managing that situation. Next time people come, maybe it will take him 12 minutes, maybe 10, maybe 8, maybe 5. At some point he will understand people coming in. I don't have to get so excited because the longer I'm in that state of mind, the longer it takes to meet them.
So this is one of my favorite things, and I promise I will not stand up and demonstrate it. But when I meet somebody, I do not want them in my face. I just don't. When you meet a dog, or when a friend of yours meets your dog, if they
You
go,
promised.
Yeah,
You
okay,
promised.
okay. I can't stop myself. It's so hard. It's like, coochie coochie coo. Oh, you're so cute. Oh, I love you so much. But it's like, no. It's there. No. Again, a big thing in dog training these days is agency and choice. It's the dog's choice. The dog gets to decide if the dog wants to say hello, not your friend or relative. All right? There's even a misunderstanding. Oh, I'm going to bite your hand. Oh, thank you for putting your hand right in front of my mouth. I'm going to bite it. No, don't look the dog. Some people have little index cards. You could have cute little holiday cards printed with, this is how I'd like you to interact with my dog. Let the dog come to you. First of all, dog needs to have 4 on the floor. Second of all, dog can come to you. Third of all, don't look my dog straight in the eye. as the handler, you want eye contact, but as somebody who doesn't know your dog, that can be very threatening to the dog.
And I think that's the point of a lot of that, what we're describing here is that, you all know your dogs. You know what they get anxious about. You know what scares them. You know what is confrontational for them. So, we just forget quickly that we're all excited. We're having a social situation. We have things that we're excited about. We forget that a lot of that doesn't necessarily translate in the same way to the dogs. They might not view it as being a great social situation. They might not view it as something exciting. It can create stress for them. That's the other point about, trying to remember to maintain their routine through all of the various activities and things through the holidays. Changes in their routine can create a great amount of stress for them. So it's important that we try to stick to the routine, exercise them in a balanced and productive way before you get into some of the holiday activities and things like that, or people are coming over, or situations are going to be different. That it's just important to keep thinking like what they need in the same way that, because they're not going to view it as being as exciting as we are probably.
Knowing your dog's propensity for visitors is how you set yourself up for success. Sometimes it's nice if you just have one dog, and if you're meeting, you're having a party, a small get-together, it's nice to have the dog on a leash, walk out your house, meet them in the driveway, and have them walk in, because then it kind of releases that whole territorialism, like we're going to go out and we're going to meet our guests and we're going to escort them into our home. Sometimes that's much easier for dogs to accept. If you're going to have a very large party and your dog's going to be nervous about so many people being around, that's when you have a safe room for the dog. You're going to be having some dog appeasing pheromone plugins. You're going to have enrichment mats. You're going to have a white noise machine or calming music. And it's just going to be dim lit, and it's going to just be a quiet space for your dog to be while the whole parties are going on. If you do want your dog to learn to be part of a party, it would be helpful if you had your dog on a leash, or have someone that that can handle your dog, walk them around, introduce them to people and then just have people help you train. Just let them know what you're expecting. Not do the gooby gooby goo, jump up on me kind of a thing. So there's a lot of different ways you can handle it. I mean, even if you have a Christmas tree and you have a puppy and it's going to be eating the ornaments at the bottom, you're just going to go to the hardware store and get a small gate and gate off your Christmas tree. You're going to be very mindful about having hors d'oeuvres and things like that on a cocktail table, and not expect your dog, when everybody's back is turned, not to raid the cheese board on the coffee table. Alcoholic beverages. You also have to be mindful that people don't know what your dog can and cannot eat. I lost a puppy because someone fed it grapes. Unbeknownst to the owners, it was a cocktail party and all the garnishes were grapes, and someone could say, that's a very healthy snack for a dog. And, a day and a half later, the dog died from eating the grapes. So it's mindful, like even with dogs that are in training, to not just get used to people coming to the door. Just have your kid or somebody make a sign that says on your front door that says, puppy in training, give me an extra minute. Sometimes if you have dogs like Labradors, I love to put a huge toy basket on the outside of the door with a sign that says, please bring in a toy for Rover. And so somebody knocks on the door and has a toy in their hand, and it goes right into the dog's mouth, and the dog doesn't jump. He's like, score, right? For some reason, when you have something in the mouth, they don't jump or whatever, and then they run away with it. Sometimes you see Labradors pick up your shoes by the front door and have it in their mouth, and they're just wiggling, right? So toy baskets are good at the front door, too. You could do knock, 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 someone's about to come in. You can do a treat scatter someplace in your house so the dogs are far into the kitchen hunting and pecking, and then usually come to the door in a little bit of calmer state of mind. So we're always trying to set them up for success. You want to always think about the final behavior that you're looking for. You don't want to concentrate on, I don't want jumping, I don't want, barking or scratching. What do you want? And then work on what do you want. That's the most important thing, for me anyway. Oh, well, exactly what you said too. A dog appeasing pheromone is a synthetic hormone. When mommy dogs are nursing, their sebaceous glands secrete this hormone, which is calming for the puppies while they're nursing, so it doesn't rip her to shreds with their little teeth on her, milk. So that's where it comes from. So it's synthetic. It's either in like a Glade plug-in kind of a thing, or it can be in a thing that looks like a flea collar, or it can be a spray if they're wearing like a thunder shirt and you could spray it on, or you could put it in their bedding. You could put it on a bandana around their neck. It's just supposed to be calming. And what is nice, what you had said, it's always a layering protocol for a dog. If you had a kid and it was cold and you gave it a hat, and it said, "Mom, I'm still cold," you don't take the hat away and give it mittens. You add the mittens, you add the scarf, you add the coat. So let's say the dog appeasing pheromone, then you have thunder shirt, then you have a baby gate. You just keep layering these things, and you're trying to find out what's going to make those dogs feel calm. Consequences drive behavior. So if people come in and they're uncomfortable about people coming in, people should kind of ignore them, not look at them. And even if they're behind a baby gate, someone can just toss cookies far away from the gate so they can retreat on their own. And then they can kind of come back to the gate going, okay, nothing bad is happening, and I kind of got a bonus. Any more cookies? And you keep sending them away. It's kind of called the treat-retreat game. And they can learn from the female if she likes people too. They can keep their distance and they can observe. And there's other protocols that you can use, but you're always going to be adding something, right? They have supplements like tryptophan, or they have a xylkine, which is like a milk lipid protein, which is supposed to be calming. There's all these little things that you could do to add, as opposed to just like, that didn't work, I'm going to quit it. Dogs are born to let you know when there's activity. So it's hard to try to suppress that behavior because it's natural. I have a tendency to not let the dogs be visually stimulated by the people that are in the backyard. There's also, you can get, at the 5 and 10, you can get like contact paper that's translucent so that they don't have a visual line at the lower part of the doors. Or you could do glass wax or something like that too. But you can also just let them know that away from the window and give them an enrichment activity. But the more that they see them, the more they bark, and then when the guys are finally done, they leave. So the dogs are like, boy, that took a lot of barking, but I got the job done. So you really don't want to put in a pattern where they think I must bark until they leave. So it's better to remove the visual stimulus and then counter condition it to being like, we love it when the landscapers come because we say thank you, and then you get to go on your lick mat.
I just want to emphasize what Gail said. Thank them. They're doing their job, right? They don't have to do their job for 20 minutes, but they can do their job for 2 minutes.
But if you're like, in your bikini at home and then the landscaper's in the backyard, you're like, whoa, didn't know you were there, So it's always good for the dogs to let you know something is. And so just to that point too, what Amy said, we have to let them. So a lady's upstairs working on her computer and downstairs dog's barking, barking, barking. She's like, quit it, shut up, that kind of thing. Barking, barking. She can't take it anymore. She comes down the stairs and she realized she left a pot on the stove that's burning, right? So I always want to find out what they're talking about. And if we listen to them and we go attend to what they're letting us know, they're just going to be like, thank God, it's a team relationship too. So we just don't want to bark with them and say, shut up,
That's great.
Yeah, exactly.
That's great.
Exactly. Perfect. Any other questions for the panel?
I'm just going to add too, if you want to are we doing the do-it-yourselfers?
Yeah, do it. Why? Yeah.
A couple of do-it-yourselfers is like this towel that's laying on top of the mat. What we can do is spread it out and do a little line of treats or kibble, fold it, a little bit more lines of treats, fold it. So we end up rolling it up like a Swiss roll. So then we put the roll on the floor, and the dog has to push the towel with his nose to get his kibble, push it some more, and then they're working for like 20 minutes just in case they missed one too. So that's a nice, cheap enrichment idea to do.
So that's the point, is that there are things in your house. You don't have to, yeah, it would be great if you go on Chewy or you go to the pet supply store and you could buy all these things, but you don't have to. I'm assuming that everybody has an old towel in their house. Something that I've discovered is, like, there's all these muffin tins, there's all these baking sheets. I don't bake that much anymore. So I use my muffin tin to freeze some chicken broth or freeze something, and then I have a whole big licky thing for the dogs. So, Veronica, is there something that you have?
My husband orders a lot of things on Amazon, so I have endless supplies of boxes. And like Gail said in the beginning, you can layer in the box different things so they can dig in it, but you can also close it with some treats inside, close it, let the dog get into it just to get the treats. But sometimes I just let them shred the box into tiny little pieces, and they love it. They love shredding the boxes. That's the best game we have.
Well, that's what I mean. Does anybody have a dog who loves to shred their toys? So give them, like, and I'm quoting Veronica a lot, is you give them something, give them a paper towel tube with a couple treats in it and let them shred it apart. But give them things to shred apart as opposed to their toys.
And don't be angry if the Amazon guy leaves the box on the wrong side of the fence and then your dog shreds it into pieces. That happens. That happened once to me. But in general, when there is something that they're not supposed to, like, make a ritual out of it, right? Sit, wait, this is for you, and then they can shred it. If they grab something that they're not supposed to, don't do that, right? And then they know. Oh yeah, that's genius. That's genius. So Sprout has the whole lettuce that he just he eats it or he just shreds it. It doesn't work on all dogs. I tried. My dogs are like, what? Vegetables?
I'll take some brown packing paper that, let's say, the Chewy box always has. I'll take a piece and I'll put some treats in it and I'll crumple it up. And I'll take an old sweat sock and I'll shove the crumpled at the bottom of the sweat sock, and I repeat that 3 or 4 times. So I've got this treats inside of the brown paper all crumpled up and shoved into the sock, and then I tie the sock off and I put it on the ground, and then I let the dog shred the sock, shred the paper to get the treats, and it's just what I would do with an old sock. So.
You have to be willing to sacrifice. Yeah.
And it's something that, if you give it to them, they understand. It's not like they're stealing the sock out of the laundry basket and then playing keep away. And again, they know exactly what you find valuable. They'll get your eyeglasses, they'll get, your remote, whatever it's going to be, because what they're looking for is the way that you respond to that. My glasses. And then the air, and then they're running and everything. So just you have to watch that game. But anyway, so it's when you give them something like old paper towel rolls, toilet paper rolls, put cookies inside and press the edges in and put it on the ground, and then they'll have fun shredding that.
Absolutely.
The muffin tin, you can take the 6 muffin tins, put treats in it, and then put tennis balls on top of that, so they have to pull the ball off in order to get the treats down there too.
It's like a DIY puzzle toy.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Excellent. Any other questions? Anything else? Enjoy the off-season with your dogs. Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Great question.
Thank you very much for coming. Absolutely. Yeah, please, you can
And if
check
you
out
guys
all the
have any
toys.
other topics that you'd like us to discuss next time, please, give us suggestions about topics that are interest to you.